Hello, I'm Penelope Roskell. I'm a pianist and I'm a professor of piano and piano pedagogy at Trinity Laban Conservatoire of Music and Dance in London. I'm also the author of a book called The Complete Pianist, From Healthy Technique to Natural Artistry. And I'm also a specialist in pianists' injuries and in injury prevention. The course covers so many different aspects of piano teaching, from very general things like how we warm up and how we sit and hand position and so on, through to different types of finger touch, different ways of playing chords, and then all the different movements that we do on the piano, for instance, leaps and rotation, different sound quality and dynamics, pedaling, and much more. When you first introduce chords to a beginner, I find it's much better to introduce just an open fifth, using the thumb and fifth finger, rather than try and play a three-note triad. And the reason for that is because the thumb and the fifth finger are much more anatomically independent of each other and of the fingers. So students usually find it's much easier to coordinate those two fingers together. A beginner may well find it's quite hard to just play 1, 3, and 5. And in the effort to put down the third but not to put down the fourth, they may end up starting to lift the 2 and 4 in that way, or really press with the third, or start to become very tense in the wrist. So I like to start with just teaching a parachute touch onto a fifth in that way. Now, just to remind you, I'll just run through very quickly the technique for the parachute touch. You can start by doing a very loose swing, which is a great warm-up for doing the parachute touch. Okay? Then you just imagine that the hand is a hot air balloon. It just floats up into the air. Remember that you're looking for the hand being very relaxed when it gets to the top. And then it just parachutes down very gradually. And you do that quite a few times with your breath, breathing in, breathing out, in, out. And then just start to minimize the movement until it's around piano playing area. So what we're using here is gravity, just letting the hand drop down with gravity. You can drop onto your knee, you can drop onto the piano lid, and then you can just drop onto a fifth. Now, most of us have been taught that D major in the left hand starts with fifth finger, and I'm sure many of you will have played it in that way. And this is what happens when we play it with that fingering. Now, I have to take the third finger over, and it has to come quite a long way over to get onto a white note. But look where my second finger is. It's not ready in position for the C sharp. Then the same again happens here. The fourth finger comes over. The third has to move into position. So there's quite a lot of twisting and turning or finding of notes. It doesn't fit naturally under the hand. And if you try it now and just play a D major scale ascending and descending, you may notice that it's not fully even. Now, the way I introduce this finger flick is it's a movement which is coming this way. So it's that movement. Now, I don't just do it from this middle joint. I'm actually doing it from this joint. So everything just bends a little bit. And I start by just doing, I call it dusting the fleck of dust off the key. So you're just flicking something off the key in that way. And I think if you do it really lightly like that and you're not trying to put the key down, you see how I'm keeping my arm really light and relaxed. So I'm not doing that. I'm not keeping it rigid at all. Just letting the arm go with it and just do this. that way. So a wonderful advanced example of the triple throw is the Rachmaninoff Prelude in G minor. So this partially depressed pedal, or the halo pedal as I call it, is ideal for creating a glow within a fairly light texture. So it's really ideal for the French repertoire, 20th century French repertoire. So for instance, La fille aux cheveux de lin by Debussy, the girl with the flaxen hair. Now the beginning, I could play it with no pedal, but it would sound a bit dry. Now, I could try it with the pedal all the way down. Now, it becomes very harmonious. We don't really hear it as a very interesting melody, so it's become too harmonic. So we might say to ourselves, well, we'll change the pedal a little bit more frequently. So you could do that. So pedal down, change, 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 change. Which is quite nice, but you get quite a big difference between the pedaling sound and the very dry sound. So what I do there again is just put the pedal part of the way down so that we get that glow to the sound, the warmth, without the thickness. And you can see that the dampers are a little bit up, but they're not all the way up, so it just produces that subtle additional pedal.